They don't pull their punches with us, and they say all kinds of stuff all the time. Most of it is false. So we got to take the fight right back to them.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton, and welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today we're speaking with spin doctor to the left, Warren Kinsella, about his book, Fight the Right, a manual for surviving the coming conservative apocalypse, to get his top 5 tips for Democrats who want to win against Republicans.
Because if we do that, we won't have to take the military action.
Bob, let me just respond. Nothing Governor Romney just said is true.
The first thing would be communicating better. Conservatives have gotten particularly good at speaking in the language of regular folks, Joe and Jane front porch, and being understood, and not talking down to people, but connecting with them at the level of language. So they're really good at that. You know, going back to the early 60s with the Kennedy-Nixon debate, you know, Nixon had been very dismissive of TV. In that debate, those two guys were tied going into it, the last gallop before the presidential debate. And then, you know, you see this guy who's really good looking, you know, Kennedy, and you see this older guy who's out sweating and looking very sneaky. He learned from that, and so did conservatives. And they learned that they had to speak to your average citizen to capture them.
I was in Dayton, Ohio, and a woman grabbed my arm, and she said, "I've been out of work since May. Can you help me?"
Number 2 is progressives need to get better at talking about values. So it's like, you know, the stuff of life, hopes and dreams and fears and resentment sometimes. Bush Jr., you can still remember the things that he stood for. You can't remember what their opponents stood for.
If America shows uncertainty or weakness, in this decade, the world will drift toward tragedy. That's not going to happen so long as I'm your president.
And in the case of Bush, he had Kerry. I mean, I challenge anybody, can you think of anything that John Kerry represented in 2004?
President Bush and I both love our country equally, but we just have a different set of convictions about how you make America safe.
A third thing that we need to do is work together. And this is particularly the case in Canada. You got Liberals and New Democrats kind of fighting for the same piece of real estate. And so what's happened is you've got this extraordinary situation where a guy, Harper, is forming majority government on the basis of less than 40% support, even with very little support in the province of Quebec, something that's never happened before. So progressives, New Democrats, and Liberals need to figure out something to address that problem. A fourth thing is getting more aggressive. Politics is a tough game. Campaigns are tough to do. And, you know, they're not run by the Marquess of Queensbury rules. You've got to, you know, get up in the grill of the other guy or gal and forcefully present your case.
You mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets because the nature of our military has changed. We have these things called aircraft carriers where planes land on them. We have these ships that go underwater, nuclear submarines.
You know, I don't think it's ever negative to tell the truth about your opponent, about the public record of your opponent. People's personal lives should remain their personal lives, but, you know, their votes and their quotes and the things that they've done with public money, we're entitled to know about those things and talk about those things.
If they graduated the top quarter of their class, they got a 4-year tuition-free ride at any Massachusetts public institution of higher learning.
That happened before you came into office.
That was actually mine, actually. Mr. President, you got that fact wrong.
And then the fifth thing would be creativity. I mean, one of the great things about the internet is it's empowered so many people, and there's billions of pages out there. So that's its strength, it's popular. Its weakness is that there's billions of pages, right? So it's hard to find stuff. And so the thing that helps you break through all of that data smog, is creativity. You know, making it interesting for people to listen to it or watch it or whatever. And that's something that conservatives are particularly good at, and progressives need to get better at.